Today we're going to cover these speaker baffles that we made in the last video with grill cloth. So I'm going to show you how I do that. So you're going to want to cut your grill cloth to size and make it just slightly oversized, maybe about 3 inches on each side. A little bit more, just enough where you can get a good grip. Okay, so these are my essentials for covering a speaker baffle. You need a hot air gun, you need a staple gun. You could use a manual stapler, but a pneumatic one is better. Staples. Now I just bought this tool not that long ago because I did some cane weave. And this is a stretcher for cane weave, but you don't have to use a stretcher when you're using this typical standard plastic grill cloth, because this stuff will shrink with the heat gun. So what we're gonna do, the method I'm gonna show you, you don't need this tool. You just need a heat gun and a stapler. And I use a straight edge and a blade that's sharp enough to cut the stuff. All right, so when you got it about 3 or 4 inches around, see I need just enough. I need enough to be able to stretch it. And if you follow the way that I'm showing you how to do this, you're gonna get it right. So basically, what I wanna do is, if you look, you can see these ridge lines. These are helpful grid lines for laying out this piece here. Now the way I actually do this is I will make one of these lines that's obvious line up totally with the top edge of the speaker baffle. And then I put weight on it. And after I put weight on it, on this leading edge here, then I adjust the side. On the left-hand side, I make it line up perfectly with one of those dark ridge lines that runs all the way down here. So I'm holding this so this doesn't shift, and I'm moving this so that I can get this 90-degree angle in the pattern right on this edge. Okay, so these are the staples that I use. You don't have to use these, but this is what I use. I buy them in bulk, and I'm using just a cheap staple gun, and I'm keeping 3 inches about on each side of extra, so I have some to pull, stretch and pull. I know which side I want to go forward to be the front. Okay, once I'm there, then I'll take one of these lines in the fabric pattern, and I'm gonna make it my leading edge for the top part of the speaker baffle. And once I have that lined up, I wanna line it up perfectly. So that bright line I see all the way across, exactly leading on the top edge. Then I come over here to this side, and while I hold this top edge, I want to move the bottom part. I want to move the whole thing so that I can get one of these dark ridges that runs down perpendicular to this bright line, and I want it to match exactly the leading edge on the left. And then once I get that there, I'll pull a little bit on this side, but the main two sides that I'm trying to put pressure on are this top with that line, and then this side here with the ridge that comes down like that. And once I've got that, then I'll throw on some safety glasses, and then I like to actually climb onto the table because I have the most amount of leverage to make sure that this top line. Now I'm pulling over. I'm not pulling hard. I'm not trying to pull hard. I'm just trying to pull and keep it straight. I'm kind of using a couple fingers at a time, so that every bunch that I pull sort of all moves the same way. Okay, now once that line is down, I flip the whole thing around, but I'm kind of pulling slightly. I want to make sure that this edge right here that I lined up already stays totally lined up. And once it's totally lined up, I'll come over here. I want to make this line even along this side, and I'm not pulling very hard, but I am pulling a little bit. All right, so now what I'll do is I'll take my, so now what I'll do is I'll take my blade and I'll come back and I'll trim this edge. And then when I get over here, I'm going to be cutting this piece, but be careful not to cut all the way through. And I don't cut all the way to the bottom, but I come very close. I maybe leave like a 1/16 of an inch of the fabric down there. So let me come over here and cut this excess off. And then I'll do the same thing over here. Get your line. All right, so now once I've gotten here, I want to look and just make sure that I have an even line across each side. And if I need to stretch something, now's the time to slightly stretch it. But this is where I'm going to be very careful. I want to make sure that my line is perfect on the side. And once my line is perfect, then again, I'm going to put pressure on that edge. And I'm going to, any spots in that line that need to be adjusted, I'm going to go ahead and adjust. But if that line is perpendicular or is parallel to this edge, then we're good. You just want to get it as close as possible. And then I'm not actually using that much pressure when I tug on it. I'm pulling it around, but I also have my weight on it. Okay, and now I'm going to do the same over here. If there's any spots to pull out, I'll kind of pull them like this. But then once I put my weight on it, it locks it in. And then I'm not pulling very hard. So now I'm going to do the same. Now on these corners, I like to, I don't know if you can see this, I like to pull this up and kind of turn it. And staple it down, just like that. So again, pull it up and kind of folding it, bunching it, pulling it. Yeah. So let's do the last two. And then I'll cut off any extra that's poking up. Okay, now if you look at this, you're gonna see, you know, it's slightly lumpy on the side. Slightly lumpy, and it's a little bit baggy. You know, it doesn't look perfect, but that's okay. It doesn't need to look perfect right now. What it needs to right now is be lined up straight. These lines perfectly parallel with the edges. And when you've got that, if there's anything you need to wiggle out of it, you can kind of do that now a little bit. It'll bend a little bit, just plastic. Okay, but having these little bits where it's kind of, it's not really perfectly laid down right there. That's okay. That's okay. The mistake, I think, is if you just try and pull the whole thing tight as you can the whole time that you make it, you're never gonna have your lines straight. You get the lines straight by making them straight with gentle pressure, and then use the heat gun afterwards. So I'm gonna do this one here real fast, and then we'll take it to the heat gun and I'll show you what I mean. But that one's, I'm happy with that. I like the lines. Everything looks good. So let's do one more. This is the step that really makes, because I don't know about you, if you've ever looked at somebody's homemade amp, or, you know, maybe they fix their grill cloth, but it's all saggy, or the lines aren't even. You know, you can get a little bit of unevenness out at this point, but here we're straight. So what I like to do for this part, this thing is very hot, and this will melt the Tolex if you're not careful. So what I like to do, actually, I have hardwood floors over here. I actually put the heat gun on the floor so it's steady, and I'm controlling this distance between the heat gun and this. And I'm gonna use high. It's gonna happen pretty fast, but I'm doing it twice, so hopefully you'll be able to see exactly what I'm doing. But I'm gonna be moving it, slowly heating along a line, and I'll be able to see this draw up a little bit. And if you get too close, you can melt it. So I wanna be very careful that I don't get too close, but I still have to use high on this thing. But it's fine so long as you have that right distance. You know, this like 6 inches away should be fine. So here we go. Then you want to be careful. Okay, so now that I've done that outer edge, I can kind of come back and do this part at this angle. And now what I'm trying to do is take any sagginess out of this upper corner right here. Okay, once I've done that, then I come back and I'll do the front. But I'm keeping it moving the whole time. I'm not really applying any direct heat to it. This thing is shrinking slowly. You just gotta keep moving, don't linger. We don't wanna melt anything. Because once you melt it, then you gotta start over. Try again. And I can feel it tightening up. All right, let's do this one. Alright, there we go. So, nice and tight. And heating and shrinking caused all those little slightly crooked or, you know, was a little baggy, it just sucked it up. And, you know, it looks really good. With this type of grill cloth, so this is going into a tweed style cabinet. What I do next is I will use the light to find and use something skinny where I can shove my holes through. go. Okay. Just had to run to Lowe's real quick. Run out of washers. I like to use washers and then nylocks when I'm securing a speaker baffle in a tweed style cabinet. Alright, so now I just mount the speakers and we'll be good to go. Now look at that. If you watched the last video where we made this speaker baffle, if you remember, I just marked it with a pencil and then I used a drill press. Now, using the pencil with the actual speaker and then using the drill press together, I was able to make speaker baffles that the speaker just slides on. There's no crookedness to the bolts holding the speaker in. Everything just slides in smooth. So let's check this one out. Be the same deal. Tabs go up. Yep, perfect. So now I always use washers, stainless steel washers, and little locking nuts, not nylocks, just the kind with the built-in lock washer on it, like that. Show you how I do that. That one might have got a little. I got a little paint on that thread right there. It's alright. Not wanting to go on smooth. Just have to be careful at this point. Whatever you do, you don't want to strip out that speaker mounting bolt. It may have some slightly damaged threads. So you don't want to cross thread it. And now it just had a little paint. There's just a little paint on it. So once you get those, hand tight. And we'll come back and just snug them up. Now I'm not doing these very tight. And I'm alternating. Just nice and snug. I don't want to bend the basket. Not tight at all. Just snug. Well, there we go. All finished. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that. The claws are nice and tight. They're nice and perfectly straight. And if you do it that way, hope you have some success. Let me know how it goes. And that's all for now. Peace.